For this edition of the Neishloss Podcast, the NF Podcast here, presented by Neishloss and Fleming and Integrity Marketing Group, we are going to blend in two major brands in the country. One just in general in terms of where it's located, and that is New York City, that whole area there, one of the major media markets that everybody's familiar with in the country, and then also one of the major carriers in the Medicare market, and how they've joined forces thanks to this gentleman who will join me on the program. I am your host, Mike Asti, and I will be joined by Robert Rothchild, who is a broker manager for Metro New York, dealing with the 5 boroughs there. Robert, first off, thanks for joining me. And how are things? I know it's a crazy world we're living in, and you guys are dealing with that where you are. So how are things right now for you?
Well, thank you, Michael, for inviting me here today. And I happen to live in what they call the epicenter of New York. I am right around the corner from Elmhurst Hospital that you see on TV every day.
Okay.
So I try not to go over there. And I'm just waiting for the day when restaurants open again so I could go have a drink.
I know. It's actually weird that I was telling someone the other day that I've never wanted to go to a restaurant more in my life. I'm just sick of eating at home. My girlfriend's a great cook. It's fantastic. I'm losing weight, actually. But I never wanted to go to a restaurant and have someone serve me more.
Yeah, I actually had a friend of mine that was moving and asked me if I could help her move. And I used it as an excuse to get out of my house.
Yeah,
and I just said to myself, like, you want me to help you move? Wonderful. I could be outside. And she was like, yeah, we could have lunch by the water in Brooklyn. I'm like, beautiful. I get to sit outside. Well, it sounds great.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
I made a hamburger on a bench.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Yeah, that's pretty much the situation now. You walk in a restaurant, you take some food, and you sit on a bench outside.
Right.
That's a nice scenery you have there. Well, Robert, aside from everything going on, the Medicare industry, one of the few, is actually still flourishing. There's certainly ways around things, and it's going to be progressing here not too far from AEP. So we definitely wanted to speak with you. It's a market we haven't touched on, but it's a major market, as we said, in the country. And Aetna is a carrier we have touched on the podcast, but we definitely wanted to hear about what's going on there, because Aetna is obviously one of the major carriers. So to get right into things, you're dealing with the 5 boroughs, you're dealing with Metro New York, the areas where people are very familiar, Long Island, etc. So when you're looking at those 5 boroughs of New York, when a newer agent or a veteran agent, we get all the same to listen to the show, are looking at those 5 boroughs, what products are generating the highest sales? What are consumers really gravitating towards? What have you already seen? So if an agent is not dealing with these, or if they have Aetna and they're not dealing with these plans, not bringing them up as much, if they're not as familiar, what do they need to get knowledgeable about, and what's doing well in your area there?
Absolutely. So I do want to mention that Metro New York is Long Island, the 5 boroughs, Rockland, Westchester, and we could group them all together. People like to say when you go above the Bronx, that's upstate, but that's not true.
That's nowhere near about New York out too.
Yeah, that's a thing that people in New York City always say. Once you go to Westchester, you're upstate. Just in that area alone, and I'm not going to focus so much on Aetna at this point, but just like the grand scheme of things, because I always say to brokers, the best plan for your client is the one that suits them the best. If it is not Aetna, I would be the first one to tell you.
Okay.
So in these areas, one of the biggest things is always going to be network, right? The strength of the network. Can I go see my doctor? Can I use this hospital? No referrals is a big deal in this area. There are some plans in New York that do have referrals. Aetna does not. If we are HMO or PPO, we do not have referrals. That is a big deal.
Yeah.
Customers really, if they've ever had referrals, never want them again. The mobility of a plan, and what I mean by that is New York is a different kind of area, and people will always say that, but I will say that New York is a different kind of area in that people have homes in other states. People travel from New York, go visit family in other states.
Sure,
It's
they
like
might
if
even
I
they
live
might
in,
even work or go to Connecticut or Jersey. I mean,
oh,
those are in that
absolutely.
same market, but it's in terms of the media market, that same region, but they're not the same state, so it is different. Yeah, that's a big difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, like, if you think about, I'll just give you an example. If you think about like Florida,
Right.
when I retire, where am I going? I can't go more south. I'm not going to Cuba, right? But I'm in New York. I might want a house in another state, right? So I want a plan that allows me to, when I'm, say, in another state for 3, 4, 5 months out of the year, I still am covered in the network the same way I am in New York. These are huge things. Another thing that is big for our area is DSNP,
Right.
dual eligible plans, which we currently don't have, but there are things coming.
Okay.
There are things coming for 2021 that are very exciting. So I will be talking some about DSNP as we go through this as well. But it is a big market for that too.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely have heard that, but we'll see if we can get you to break some news here on the program, or else we'll have you back on here, maybe close to AP.
Well, if people listen, they'll hear breaking news, but I can't come right out and say it.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, that's good. I kind of like that. A clever way of breaking it. People have to pay attention. I enjoy that. In terms of Aetna, though, in terms of selling Aetna, and this is something that happens with every carrier. It exists with every carrier, even major carriers like Aetna that are known. When an agent gets in someone's house or talks them over the phone, if that's the new way these days, they don't want to let them to the kitchen table. But when they're speaking with somebody and they're getting into plans, they're trying to get a sale. The agent's number one, obviously, is trying to serve the client to get them what they need, because that's the best plan for them, as you said. But the agent also wants to make that commission and also wants to get a sale. So they're not going to probably be able to get out everything in the world, everything under the sun to this client. They may think they're not going to understand it, or else they just don't want to give them that kind of time. So that only gives them a small chunk of things they have to get out there, and there may be challenges that are involved. Clients may just bring up challenges, try to be negative, just to do it,
Sure.
just for gigs. So, what are some of those challenges in the New York market, in those 5 boroughs, that you've heard from agents that they keep hearing, or that are popular that clients are going to bring up just to be negative? What are some challenges that you're aware of, that maybe some advice you can give agents if they're hearing those a lot and not being able to get through those, on ways they can still navigate and get a sale?
So I'm going to answer this 2 different ways.
Okay.
I am going to answer it. I'm going to tell you a challenge that I face as far as the brokers are concerned, and not putting them down in any way whatsoever, but it is a thing to talk about.
Right.
But I will mention, for Aetna currently, we have Medicare Advantage plans, right? And we have HMOs and PPOs. We have a choice for everybody. We have 2 PPOs and 1 HMO in every county, but we don't have a DSNP. We don't currently have an LIS plan currently.
Okay.
And also, we do not offer supplements in New York, and that is not going to change. I will stress that. There are things that are going to change, but that is not changing anytime soon.
Yeah, a lot of things need change in the world, but that's just not going to change.
But not that one.
Right.
Trust me, we'll be in a restaurant before I ever get a supplement. So why I'm saying that is because if you want to sell Aetna and you like working with Aetna and you like the support that your member has being a member of Aetna, we don't have a product for every different level of prospect. That's a challenge for Aetna. Because I'll have brokers go, you know what, I love Aetna, this person needs a supplement. Yes, I don't have one. When is Aetna getting a DSNP? Well, right now we don't have one. Do you have a product for an LIS person? Not really. So that becomes a challenge. As far as just being an agent in this area, one of the challenges will always be, and I have done my best to work with a lot of brokers, and those that listen to me, I'm going to sound a little conceited. Those that listen to me on this are successful. Those that don't listen to me on this are moving their book of business every single year, which is things that people don't want to do.
Right.
To get through to brokers, that the cheapest plan is not always the best plan has been challenging as long as I have been a broker manager.
Right.
Just because the copays are lower does not mean that that is the best plan for your client. I always say to them, I could have all zero copays. If I don't have any of their doctors, my plan is not good. If you just sell on the copay, what ends up happening is the next year that's not the cheapest plan anymore. Something else cheap comes along and you got to move the people there. Mm-hmm. And you're focusing on moving people instead of keeping the people and growing your book of business. The only way to do that as a broker is to ask questions so you make sure that you are putting your client in the plan that suits them the best. They will stay there. You will get more referrals, and your book will continue to grow because you could focus on new people. Because if they're in the right plan, that $5 a copay may go up the next year, or a premium that goes up a couple of dollars is not going to want to make them move because it has all the benefits and the network that your client wants.
It definitely sounds like, in your market in particular, that it does require being knowledgeable. It does require listening to broker managers, and it does require really getting the full picture out of there and actually speaking clearly and getting all that out, which, that's necessary.
I would say, I would say any market, not just New York, but any market where there are several carriers all at the same level.
Right.
Okay. Like we have some carriers that just have like smaller networks for a certain type of person. And those plans are not competitors to Aetna or United or Humana or Empire, Blue Cross Blue Shield, or, Emblem Health, or they're not competitors to that. The ones that I just mentioned are competitors to each other.
Right.
And some of them not on the same level, just due to network and other issues. And I'm not putting anybody down. Every plan out there fits somebody.
Right.
I said this on a training the other day, and if you could ever hear shock in a webinar, and I asked all the brokers, I said,
I wish I was on it.
Are there any plans out there that have no membership? And in the chat box, everybody wrote no. There are no plans that have zero membership, right? Like in shock almost. Like, no, that's not possible. And I go, right. So you know what that means? That whoever's on there, they love that plan. There's no way you're getting them off. And if you don't want to write that plan because you don't like it, you're missing out on whatever business is on that plan. Right. So you got to ask the right questions. You have to speak to the person. It's not just about, here's two plans. They both have your doctors and prescriptions. This one is $10. This one is $15. This is $45. This is $40. Because basically then what you're saying to your client is, I don't really care what you take. Just pick one of these and let me get out of your house.
Yeah, I mean, anyone can almost read a printout, or they almost can shop on their own if that's the case. If they're just looking for that. But yeah, and network is a major deal in New York, and network is a major thing because obviously, no matter the prices don't mean anything if they don't have your doctor, if you're not getting the right network. So for sure, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Now, getting into, and I'm speaking here with Robert Rothchild, the broker manager for Metro New York, which consists of those 5 boroughs, and looking at your plans and looking at the Aetna plans, what do you think? And this might be hard to say, so you certainly can give more than one answer if you'd like. But what do you think is one of or the most attractive benefit? We talked about some challenges. We know Aetna is a brand that they offer a lot. But what do you think is one of those attractive benefits that brings customers in, that clients like, whether or not they like the brand Aetna or not, when they hear this benefit, they want to be a part of this plan?
Our biggest selling benefit, beyond all else, is the seamless national network. And I'll explain that very quickly.
Okay.
There are other carriers that I will not mention by name claim to have a seamless national network, and I've been told by people that have worked at those carriers that when you try to use it, it's just a disaster. Aetna is one of the simplest things to use ever. This is and this is big also, our HMOs and PPOs all have this because there's no referrals on our plans in New York. So what this is an Aetna Medicare member that resides in New York can use providers in any state that Aetna Medicare has a network of providers and be covered the same way you are in New York with the same copay or co-insurance, depending on what you're going for. There is no one to call. There is nothing to join. There is no referral to get. All a member would need to do is go to aetnamedicare.com, search for a provider. It asks them where they live. They always select New York, their zip code in New York, not where they're going. Brings up the plans available to them. They pick the plan that they have, but all the plans have the same network if it's HMO or PPO, so it doesn't matter. But they choose a plan that they have, and when they get to the next screen where they can type in the doctor's name or choose what type of provider they're looking for, they change the zip code to where they are going. So say it's a Florida zip code. So now they're searching the New York plan in Florida. And they could type in the doctor's name. If it comes up that they accept the plan, they could go without a referral, be covered the same way they are in New York. If they don't have a certain provider, they could search by all primary care physicians or what type of specialist they're looking for. And if the list comes up, they could go see any of them the same way they could in New York. Now, it's not only when people travel, this is why it makes it so big. A person in Westchester might want to use a doctor in Connecticut because they're closer, northern Westchester. Person in Rockland County is right on the border of New Jersey. There's actually a better choice of doctors in New Jersey than there are in Rockland. There's not that many doctors in Rockland. So they would be able to do that. If you live in Staten Island, for an example, much, much easier to go to New Jersey, to a hospital like Robert Wood Johnson Hospital, one of the top hospitals in the country for different things. Much easier to do that than try to figure out how to get to Manhattan from Staten Island, because you have to drive over the Verrazano Bridge, go through a tunnel, drive into Manhattan. It costs $50 to park a day if you're lucky. That's cheap, actually, $50.
Oh,
That's not a joke.
That does sound cheap. Yeah, no, I don't live there, but I've been to New York several times and I've been to that city. And I know it. Yeah, 50. I was going to say that's a deal. Help me get around.
Yeah. So it just makes the plan that much. Ease of use is always a big deal when it comes to plans. Right. And if I am a person that lives close to another state, or sometimes you have people, just for an example, they'll move to like southern New Jersey, which is big for 55 and over communities like Ocean County. Mm-hmm. And they used to live in Staten Island or Brooklyn, and they still want to see doctors there. As long as they choose a plan that's open access and has the seamless network, they could do that. So that is really our, if I had to pick anything, that is the biggest selling point, is that seamless national network. Of course, also the size of our network in New York. I mean, sometimes people ask me, like, what hospitals do you have? And I'm like, it's much easier to tell you which ones I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a much shorter list, very short, as a matter of fact. So it's really like the network, and that the network is national.
And obviously the network is a big deal anywhere. I mean, even if you're in a rural area, the network is a big deal. You want to make sure you can go to the doctors that you want to go to, but it's especially a major thing in New York. I mean, from anyone who's ever been near that area or where the city is or anything in New York, I mean, knowing, or even just the stereotype really of knowing people commuting in and out from different states for work, and just having everything so close. I mean, into the New England region with Jersey, and really even, Philly and DC, and not being too far from a lot of different places over in that East region. So that's just a big deal. People are going in and out of New York all the time. Even transient people that hop on planes and go back and forth from LA to New York. So that's happening a lot in that area, and that's a major factor here for sure. So that definitely makes a lot of sense as a big selling point. Now, Aetna, again, they have a developed portfolio that we talk about, a developed portfolio of plans, and a lot for consumers to choose from, even though there's a lot out there. And it seems like there's something for everybody when you really look at the plans. But what do you think so far? What have you known so far, even though we're relatively early in the year, and this might be a little different of a year because of the pandemic, but what two plans have you noticed are experiencing high growth so far during 2020? This could be surprising or maybe kind of what you guys expected, and consumers are so far looking at them, and maybe kind of what you're expecting even as we get towards AEP. And we'll definitely bring you on again. I think it's been a great conversation. If you'll come on, I definitely would love to have you on again. But yeah, what are two plans that are having success so far that may also continue?
So I will say that, of course, our number one plan in the 9 counties that I mentioned, the 5 boroughs, Long Island, Rockland, Westchester, it is the same plan in all 9 counties, which makes it easier for a broker, because if they enroll somebody in Nassau and they said, hey, my sister lives in Queens and could she have this plan too? Yes, she could. Is our elite PPO plan. That is our 0 premium PPO. It does have a medical deductible. It is only on 5 items. It is $1,000 and it's annual. It's not on each item, but it's only inpatient, outpatient, hospital, end-stage renal disease, ambulatory surgery, skilled nursing, and therapeutic radiology, which is radiation therapy after cancer. Those are the only 5 items in that alone. If you think about people that are 65, 70, 75, what type of plans are they retiring from, right? High deductible plans, $5,000, $7,500, $10,000, paying $400, $600 out of their check every month. And you tell them this is 0 premium, the deductible's only $1,000, it's only on these 5 items. It's like a no-brainer. And the amount of time this plan has been around, and I want to say that this AEP, if I'm not mistaken, this AEP will be the 5th year of this plan. Just think about that. So this is only we're only in the 4th year. We're going into the 5th year.
Yeah.
34,000 members in this plan. So if that doesn't make it number one in those 9 counties, I don't know what does. 34,000 people in the same plan. It is just a huge seller for us, and people get it. You know, the deductible does not stop them. There's no plan out there from any carrier that has that much membership in it at all. Depending on where you are now, it makes the second choice. But I will say in like Westchester, Rockland, and then certain boroughs, and and part of Long Island, we have a premier plan. And the premier plan has no deductible. It has a premium instead. It has out-of-network copays. And in Westchester, Rockland, the Bronx, it's one plan. And then everywhere else except Suffolk, it's a different one for the premier. And I will be honest, the Suffolk one is kind of expensive. It does business, but not huge numbers, so I'm not going to include that one. But these other 2 do very well, because when you figure out the premium, it comes out to about $1,000, right?
Right.
So one of the ways that I teach brokers to sell this is, would you rather have a 0 premium, only spend the money when you may need to? Because if you don't go for those 5 items, you're not spending $1,000. Or would you rather a low premium, 66 or 83, depending on where you are, to have no deductible? You tell me. And then it's the old insurance trick, right? You shut up until they open their mouth. And when they say to you, well, why would I want a premium? Well, I agree. Let me have your Medicare card. Or $66 isn't a lot of money, is it? No, I don't think it's a lot of money either. Let me have your Medicare card. Right? Those plans do very well. And what the Premier actually draws a lot of is people that have supplements that don't really use them, can't understand why they're spending that much money, and they're looking to save. So they take a plan like our Premier plan, and some of them do take the Elite PPO too, but from $300 to say like 66, that's not a big deal. And they feel a little bit more comfortable paying something. But it has out-of-network copays for primary specialists, for hospital. In the network, you have the large network. You could travel with it. It almost sounds like a supplement, right? I go to another state. I could still go see a doctor. It's okay.
Yeah, and it's not killing you as much if you don't get sick. You're not having, it's a lower premium if you're not getting sick, because a lot of people may, especially early into their 65 and 60 to 65,
Exactly.
75,
Somebody
they
told them the
really,
supplement was the best, but then when
right,
they figure it out, it's like, I'm spending all this money. I go twice a year.
right,
It doesn't make sense, right?
yeah,
So, and then I would say that our HMO in Bronx, Brooklyn, and Richmond County is a big seller. That HMO as well does
okay,
very well. It's our zero premium HMO, and it does better with the older clientele.
okay,
Because when you get to the ages like 78, 80, 85, they never had a plan with a deductible when they work. They don't understand it. They don't get it. And you could do math. You could set up a chart on the wall and do math, and they're still going to go, I don't understand what you're telling me. I
yeah.
never had a plan like that.
And at
So
that
we
at that
have
point, they're going to have some doctor visits. They're going to be you would imagine
exactly,
the health is deteriorating. I mean, if
exactly.
you're able to be 85 and you're going to the doctor once a year and taking one medication, then more power to you. I mean, that's almost impossible.
Exactly. And that's the thing. They're just more used to an HMO. Tell me what my copay is, and I go pay it.
Right,
And that's it.
Well,
So we do have a product for everybody, but the biggest is our Elite PPO, and then depending where you are, either the Premier or that HMO in those three counties.
yeah, and that's great information for sure. Again, Robert Rothchild here, broker manager for the Metro New York area. We definitely appreciate the time here just to round things out. And I know you have a story for us, but we deal with agents in your area. We certainly deal with Aetna. It's definitely one of our top carriers here at Neishloss. And as you know, we definitely pride ourselves on service with the agent and always being available, whether it's in hours, odd hours.
Absolutely.
We want to make sure that we're able to provide that education. There's been times where some of your agents have called us and we're literally providing them information and the education that you say they need while they're with somebody. So we're making sure they have it there, which is all a part of this circle. But we also have a lot to offer outside of just the service that everyone will profess that they have. I really do feel we do. But we also have different programs. Number one, MedicareCenter.com. And I've done a podcast on this actually that's on our website and all through our socials. So it's just been about this. I caution any agent who's not aware of this to go back and just listen to that thing or go to a Medicare Center webinar because they're out there too. It's an online enrollment site. So especially now with the pandemic, and this existed prior, but especially now with the pandemic, that if clients don't want to meet you face-to-face or you potentially want to get a sale in maybe a further area, you don't want to drive there because, again, New York especially, it's a big state. There's a lot going on there. MedicareCenter.com could potentially be your ticket. It's an online enrollment platform. You can look up doctors, look up prescription drugs. You can use it as a quote engine, but you can also just simply send an email and get the plan and get the sale that way. We have a program called Snoozy, which puts you, it's a weird name, but it puts you in touch with a former agent who now kind of just does this to help agents, in which he will maintain or create your social media platforms. So you put him in contact with him. He'll get to know them. He'll either create a website, create all those social platforms of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, or if they're already in existence, he will maintain them, make them better, make sure they're active so an agent doesn't have to worry about doing it. And that will in turn generate online leads and a stronger digital footprint, which perception's reality. That's better for people out there who are especially in a sales business. And we also have something called Greenhouse, which is great. That's also on our website. I've also done a podcast about that, where it can just incentivize agents even further and can get them more points, Amazon gift card points to just buy things for their lives, especially based on just doing regular things like setting up a profile on our site, uploading the W-2 to help get them paid, just doing contracts, doing different things they normally would in their regular business. It can also generate these Greenhouse points with Amazon that are just extra in terms of their commissions. We have all that at our disposal in terms of what we offer as well as our service. So I definitely think we do have a lot to give agents, and I know that we have a strong relationship with Aetna in general, but certainly even in your area.
Absolutely.
And then I do want to round this out because you told me a story here off the air before we got started about what we offer and about your relationship with us and what you've noticed with us. So I definitely think the listeners would love to hear that as we get towards closing the program.
Yeah, I will mention that I actually came to visit Neishloss and Fleming not that long ago. I took a trip and came to the office.
Awesome.
And
we have a new office now, by the way. I will tell you.
You have a new office.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you that I'm sure it got bigger, if anything.
It did. Yes.
But I
Yes.
remember being in the office, and you know that you're in a company that really knows what they're doing when they go, okay, we're going to take you to the other building now. Yeah, you know that you got something there. You know, multiple buildings is not something that a small company that doesn't know what they're doing has.
Right.
But I will tell this story, and I'll make it a little quicker than we did this morning. But your team, Neishloss and Fleming, had come to New York before AEP a couple of years back to do some recruiting, and the knowledge of Neishloss and Fleming that was shown to me at that meeting, because I don't get to go to every meeting, right, and every recruitment and talk to everybody in as much detail as I would like to. But the knowledge that was shown to me at that meeting of a partner, I'm going to call you guys a partner, not a upline or agency,
Right.
to find a partner that has so much knowledge of a market when they represent so many is astounding. And I will say, I don't think I've ever told anybody this yet, but I actually stole part of the presentation because I thought it was so good and told the story so well that I used it in my trainings. And that was a very successful AEP. And I'm going to take most of the credit for that AEP, but about if I wasn't 100%, but I mean, that gave me like a huge percentage of just that story that was told to the brokers in New York about why Aetna from not Aetna, from a partner that really did all the research you could imagine that like I didn't have to. Like I saw that and I was like, oh, I could just steal that. I don't even have to go look that stuff up. That was great. And I used that for, I think it was a couple of years that I used that table that Neishloss and Fleming had created to say why Aetna. We did really, really well that year. And I stole that from you guys. I don't know if anybody knows that.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy we were able to help you out there. I will call. We got a little hockey assist. We'll say we got a hockey assist on that for sure.
Yeah.
You scored the goal.
Yes,
we got the
definitely.
we got the hockey assist there, and which is we all care about scoring the goal and making sure there's success there. So that's great news. Hopefully we can get you something to use again this year. I don't know about maybe we'll come up. We don't know about travel yet. I hope that opens up here. Obviously.
Well, I will say this. Let me just make one more statement that I want to say. And this is just a general statement. During this time, I know that it has been difficult for everybody to do business. Right. But if you did not realize, for any broker out there that is in the Medicare business or is looking to get into the Medicare business with Neishloss and Fleming, if you don't realize after all of these things that people were losing their jobs. It's terrible to think about, but people were losing their jobs. The economy got horrible. But if you were a Medicare broker, you know what happened? Even if you weren't making sales, you still got a residual check every single month.
Yeah.
And nobody was able to take that away from you. So if you didn't realize now that this is the perfect business to be in, then I don't know what could ever convince you.
Yeah, and with Medicare Center and different platforms like that, there still were sales able to happen, but the industry, the Medicare industry, certainly has come off almost Teflon for.
I actually, I would have rather it would have been better. I will say this. I'm going to give you percentages. February and March, I was 150 and 140% of goal. Over. So that was amazing. April and May, when this all really hit, still right at about 100% of goal. 1 month was 99.7 and the next month was 100.78. I just looked it up the other day. That's how I know. For June 1st enrollments, everybody kind of figured out how to do business in this market that we're in right now. And June is exceeding goal. So I expect that to go forward. So it is a business that you could do when you're this is kind of going to sound like a joke, even though it's not. It is a kind of business that you could do when you're locked in your house. You just have to have the right tools, like what Neishloss and Fleming offers you, right? You have you have your online enrollment tool. You have that. You have all the capabilities on your website and all those type of things and research and all that. So, I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely been proven to be the case, and we've noticed that too with the numbers we've seen the last few months, as crazy as they've been. Robert, definitely appreciate the time here. Robert Rothchild, broker manager with those Metro New York area, with that Metro New York area, the 5 boroughs over there in New York. Definitely appreciate the time. We'll definitely talk again and have you back. But we hope you keep on being safe out there, can get to some restaurants, and at least enjoy the view. And the weather's been okay, so that's been a positive if you're walking the streets. So we definitely appreciate the time, though.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike, for having me, and I look forward to doing this again. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Again, Robert Rothchild, the broker manager in Metro New York with those 5 boroughs there. This was about Aetna. This was about a major state, a major location, as well as a major carrier. I'm your host, Mike Asti, here with another edition of the Neishloss NNF podcast here. Thanks to Neishloss and Fleming, and also, of course, brought to you by Neishloss and Fleming and Integrity Marketing Group.